You know what? Science confirms the Bible as well. In a time when science taught that the earth was flat, the Bible says in Isaiah chapter 40, and bear in mind Isaiah was written 2,600 years ago, right? That's a pretty old bit of writing. And he says, God sits upon the circle of the earth. The Hebrew word is shuf, which literally means a sphere. The Bible has always proclaimed the earth is round. God sits upon the spherical roundness of the earth, and that was 2,600 years ago, friends, before science had ever put its thinking cap on to realize the earth was round. The Bible also says in Leviticus in the Old Testament, it says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. Do you know that one of America's presidents, George Washington, died because he was bled to death under a scientific teaching called the doctrine of humors that taught if you were sick, you must have bad blood, and so the only way to get better is to take all your blood out. And so they bled him to death under a scientific dogma. And yet all the while the Bible says the life of the flesh is the blood. You know, there's another teaching in the Bible, and it said that the Levites in the Old Testament were to wash their hands under running water. You know that about 200 years ago, when you go to the hospital to deliver your dear child, the midwives would wash their hands under running water. They would have one bucket, they would dip their hands into that bucket, and they would deliver your child. And then another woman would come in, they would dip their hands into the same bucket, and they'd deliver the next child. And then another woman would come in, they'd dip their hands into the same bucket, and they'd deliver that child. And they started scratching their heads, wondering why so many children were dying. It's because they did not wash their hands under running water. They used the same filthy water. And yet all the while the Bible commanded the Old Testament Levites to wash their hands in running water. Friends, science confirms the Bible. And the Bible confirms science. Some people think science and religion are at odds. You see, Webster's dictionary defines science as knowledge, gained by observation, testing, and demonstration. The problem is, I can see chihuahuas, wolves, coyotes, and dobermans, and I conclude that they're all a pack of dogs and they're all a little bit different. You know what that's called? It's microevolution, variations within a kind. But you see, I don't see that dog becoming anything other than a dog. A dog will not become a non-dog. And the moment you start saying man came from monkeys, you're now asserting macroevolution. Something that is unproved and unprovable. Do you know Sir Arthur Keith, who wrote the 100th edition forward to Charles Darwin's Origin of the Species, said evolution is unproved and unprovable. And the only reason we believe it is because the only alternative is biblical creation. This is in the 100th edition of the Origin of Species itself. Evolution is unproved and unprovable. Do you know Malcolm Muggeridge, a great philosopher of 100 years ago, said that evolution would be one of the greatest jokes in the history books of the future. Evolution would be one of the greatest jokes in the history books of the future.